Good morning, Jason Wydrow here with Online Strategy Podcast, Thursday, May 31st, 2022. In this episode, I am going to talk to you about the silent killer in marketing and advertising in terms of the business itself. And silent might be a bit of a misnomer word here, but I do think it's somewhat of a silent thing in terms of the silence it might create or the silence it generates within the business. And that is when being a designer of anything really, whether it's graphic arts or digital arts in any form, you're faced with the situation where we have to present that work to be reviewed, to be approved, to be acknowledged, to be accepted, to be rejected, whatever the case may be. And from the business standpoint, and I will say that Gary Vaynerchuk really is probably the biggest proponent of this exact thing, and I really, really agree with what he has to say on this topic. But, in the business world we live in, at the speed in which we move, and also at the acceptance factor of the audience, what the audience expects, that's what your business is advertising to and marketing to. My point here is that a lot of attention and a lot of focus can be put on unnecessarily on minute details that aren't immediately applicable or necessary to put attention on, and can hold up, stop, hinder, destroy businesses from the inside in terms of growth and outward expansion. And this is obviously not a new topic. This has been going on probably since the beginning of advertising and design itself on the subject. Now, I'm going to add in here, though, I believe that it is always best to go for the optimal, perfected product. Beautiful advertisements, beautiful marketing, and always going for that. But when the business is at stake, when the success of the business is at stake, because there's so much focus being put on, again, those minute details, then you have a situation where the balance goes out. The question then becomes, who is the advertisement or the design really being created for? If it's being created for the business, or is it being created for the audience? That's the real question you have to ask. Now, of course, business owners can have visions and specific directions they want to go, or specific ways they want to be presented and represented. And there's nothing wrong with that, and that's perfectly fine. But again, when it becomes to the point where the business itself stops talking to its audience because of things held in suspension or stopped, because they're not perfect, they're not exactly what internally was requested in some way. Now, I will go on to add some detail to this. So there are a lot of circumstances where the verbiage itself misrepresents the product. That's a totally different thing. I'm talking about getting the product, the service, or whatever it might be out there into the world, and in a volume and a rapid volume, in such a way that the business can sustain and drum up and create new business. And the truth is, if the product doesn't need to be sold very much, if it's already a desirable product out of the box, or it's already known that it's a product that's respected in some way or wanted in some way by a consuming audience out there, a lot isn't necessarily required to talk about it or to promote it, to present it. Now, of course, you can make your presentations really fancy. And if you have a lot of competition in a specific field, for example, if you're selling jeans, you're going to have a lot of competition, and you're going to have to present and design your presentations in different ways and your advertisements. And again, all of the point, again, back to the start of this, and I could go on to a lot of different avenues, and I'll have to cover much more of that in different podcasts individually. But just as if you're a business owner, if you're in any position where you make decisions in terms of the design, or even if you're a designer and that's your decision to send out the advertising and the promotion, just really look at and try to evaluate the balance of, is it acceptable? Will it work? Can I get it out? Can I start to advertise? Or do we just need to keep holding and holding and holding and holding until there's some inside view that it's just right and now it can go? Otherwise, if you're that latter, waiting and waiting and waiting, again, it's that silent. And the other phenomena that can occur is that, just in terms of, getting, being able to get something done and out the door, and that sense of accomplishment not being able to be achieved can be demoralizing, I believe, for designers, for those that are doing the creative work. Now, it could be possibly true that those designers aren't necessarily fit for the type of design that's needed for the product, or they can't achieve what's needed by, the requester of the design. So a lot of factors to take into consideration on this whole thing, but again, those are really aside from the point of sometimes in business, you just need to get the word out, and you need to get it out, and you not get so caught up on how it's said or what's said. Of course, advertising honestly, clearly, so that you're not misrepresenting a product or a service, but really just going for it and getting out there. Some of the most successful advertisers and promoters of today and influencers naturally, and this can be observed day in and day out every single day, have just plain simple videos with plain simple communication. And they're speaking directly to their audience. And sometimes that's all that's needed. And it doesn't need to be more complicated than that and more involved. And the business can grow and flourish and create that customer that it's trying to achieve. So again, I fully respect the detail work. I fully respect the art work. I fully respect all aspects of making beautiful advertising and marketing creations. But to the extent that it begins to stop the business and hold up the design process and hold up and stop other things and create really, in internal frustration, I think that, different decisions can be made at that point, depending on the scenario, obviously, but just be really careful of that. And, I've witnessed and experienced and been involved directly in businesses that have really had, you could say, terrible advertising presentation, terrible design presentation, but their product was good and the audience knew it. And at the end of the day, that's what's most important. It's that product. And if any of you recall, back in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, when consumer websites were just popping up left and right, you'll know, sometimes a great product would just be on a one-page website with some text and a picture with a phone number. and that's still common today. That's not uncommon. Some businesses just have a Facebook page. And yes, they post photos and they do different things, but there is nothing really, advanced, you would say, or super perfect about their advertising and marketing methods. So I say my personal opinion from experience and observation is the product is the key, and then the marketing can just be a message that you get out, starting with a message, and then you can refine that over time as the business becomes sustainable. All right, Jason Widrow here with Online Strategy Podcast. That's all I have for you today. Wishing you a great day. Until next time, be well.